Hi everyone, welcome back and good morning. Welcome to the ITOM batch 2, day 7. How are you doing, guys?
Good, Ajay.
Thank you, Ajay. How are you?
I'm also good, thank you. So let's get started. So before starting today's session again, I just want to ask any questions, any doubt, anything you want to be asked from the last sessions which we have covered till now. Anyone? Okay. So let's get started. Let me start sharing my screen now. Let me know once you're able to see my screen. I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes.
Okay, sure. Thank you. So, yesterday we are discussed about the prereq for the discovery, where we have covered mid servers, credentials, and the firewall policies. Now, thing come in our mind, everything is sorted. How discovery is running, and what is the life cycle phases of the discovery, right? Or what is the process we are going to use to run the discovery, basically. So the point comes first from where the things will be started. The things will be started from the first phase, or we also called 4 phases of the discoveries. First phase is scan. So scan basically what in simple words, if I say, when you are going to be any when you want to go to any room or any let's take an example. You are searching a new house or new room for rent, right? So what you are trying to do, first of all, you are trying to search out, you are trying to scan which is accessible for me from my location, which will be good for me, right? So the same way here, when we are trying to do discovery, the first phase we can scan, or the sesame phase, right? So in that particular first phase, sesame probe will be launched. Sesame defined IP ranges and identify active device and the port number. In simple words, if I say, you know, uh, how discovery works, first of all, you need a IP address to run or to find out any device, right? The same way here, that Sesame Probe will go to check that particular IP address, is that IP is active or alive. Second thing, it will check what or how many ports are open on that particular device. And that is a predefined Sesame probe, which is available in ServiceNow, right? So we no need to do anything here. We just need a IP. We just need a mid server or credentials of that particular IP, and we can start the discovering of any device. So in first phase, that will be happening. So once let's take an example. Once I have find out the what ports are open, is the IP is active or not, right? Once that is done, then our port props use protocols to be triggered, basically. So second phase comes in the picture is classify, where it try to determine device type by OS, or launch probe or pattern against active device, basically. So in the classification, again, example is like, you find out a search, find out a room, or you navigate that is my house or room for the rent or anything, whatever. So you reached out there, you trying to assess what things are available here, or how we can proceed further, right? So you're classifying that particular thing, right? So the same way in ServiceNow, that is classification which is happening, and it tried to determine based on the active port on that particular machine, what type of device it is, right? Then the third phase or life cycle phase, we can say identify. So here our ServiceNow discovery horizontal patterns will run. In that particular identification phase, it's using the pattern to gather the details like serial number, name, and other attribute of the CI through IRE. And through IRE, basically here the identification and reconciliation engine comes in the picture, where it's try to identify based on the serial number and name or other attribute which we have defined in the IRE, is that particular CI is already available in ServiceNow or not. If it is yes, it's available based on the number or the name, then it will discover and update the existing CI. If it is not, then it will definitely go to create a new CI in that particular class. The last is explore. So in explore phase, the exploration patterns will be triggered, which depends basically on the CI itself, right? It can be application dependency pattern, it can be database pattern, it can be other patterns as well, right? So here it's try to identify what other informations running on that particular device, like running processes, installed softwares, installed applications, database, and any other things, right? So it going to be triggered those particular pattern and try to discover those particular device things, and going to be update in the ServiceNow CMDB. So if you see here in my screen in the middle, that is a Windows server, right? So left side thing, or sorry, right side things that will comes or that will discovered normal by horizontal patterns. But the left hand side, which is SQL, Microsoft IIS servers, as MSFT SQL instances, that will going to use the exploration phase and extended patterns, which can be discovering those informations and updating. And definitely it everything will create a relationships. So if you see that my Windows server is going to be connected with network adapter, the disk, and disconnecting to the file systems as well, right? So everything have a relationships. So and that relationships will be creating by default or automatically using the patterns. We no need to be worry about it, but we have to be make sure that is discovering the or that relationships are the correct. And if sometimes customers want to ask to modify those particular things, then we have to take a call on it as well. But I say, as I already mentioned, the out of the box things is something better than nothing. And we should not modify the out of the box things. We should try to tailored those out of the box things in the different way to create a different pattern, doing whatever we required, but we should not touch the out of the box pattern which is coming with the ServiceNow discovery plugins or the subscriptions. So that is how the ServiceNow discovery works basically. As I already give an example of house. So now you classify, now you are trying to do identify here, is that particular house, uh, uh, I have already checked it, or I'm just come first time. If you already checked it, you will not go again, right? If you are not done, you will go to try to find out the things, and then you are going to identify what amenities we have available this with particular house, right? So how the discovery lifecycle basically works in ServiceNow. Yes, someone raised hand.
Ajay, that's me, Lalit. The first
Yes.
question I have is, so you talked about the probe. I want to understand the difference between a probe and a pattern. What I understood from this conversation is probe is a standard pattern, and pattern is the second pattern is something that you can customize. So can you clarify on that?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm coming to that point only. The next slide will be on that only. But let me go to my prop pattern slide. I have not covered this one, that's why only. Right. In simple words, if you able to see on my screen as well. So basically props and sensors are script that collect and process data on a host and update the CMDB. In simple words, if I say probe, earlier, ServiceNow Discovery or ServiceNow is using the props only. Props is the small steps where we are trying to explore or we are trying to collect the data from the target device for small things. Let's take an example. Uh, I need to put, I need to trigger a command to check that a particular system is accessible or not, or the target device is accessible or not from the mid server. How can I do that? Anyone knows in command way?
Probably ping.
Yes. And to a specific port, if we need to check.
Hostname colon the port name.
No. Okay. So ping is one of the way to check the communication from mid server to the destination device to check the device is responding, is active or alive. Second, if we want to check the the which ports are open, definitely we will go with the telnet, right? So from the command prompt, we are putting telnet, the host, target host name, and the port, a specific port which we want to be telnet to check the communication directly on that particular portal. The same way here in the props, that particular commands or scripts we have defined, and that is checking that informations in the first phase of discovery that we called Sesam. It's try to identify. And then sensor, what sensors do? Sensors pass the data which is returned from the props basically, right? So these that is probe and sensors. What is difference between now probe and sensor, probes and pattern basically? So probe, as I mentioned, small things, right? Pattern is series of probes and sensors. So, identifying small chunk and lots of probe will be triggering and that will causing issues earlier. So that's why ServiceNow modify a little bit and, put lots of things in simple, in one pattern or, in one design basically, where they have mentioned four steps for each thing, right? So let's take an example. I just want to discover Windows Server. On the first thing where we just need to check in the Sesam side, just need to check the connection. So that will be taken care by the props. But now I just want to discover that particular Windows server in identification section where horizontal pattern will be triggered of Windows server. So what information I'm going to be collect? I need to be check the host name. I need to be collect the serial number. I need to be collect the RAM. I need to be collect the hard disk. I need to be collect the OS. I need to be collect the lots of other informations, domain, and so. So if I break those particular things in small props and trigger, that will little bit that will tough to manage. So ServiceNow club all the props and put it in one pattern. That's why we called pattern. And I also mentioned the same thing. Pattern, likes, and prop are series of operations. Also collect data, a host process it and update the CMDB. Pattern different from probe and sensors in that they are written in Nebula discovery language rather than JavaScript, and they called into action in the later stage of horizontal discovery process. Right? And when we are doing discovery of any type of devices, horizontal pattern should be triggered to collect that particular thing. And in horizontal pattern, as I already mentioned, identification, right? So identification section will be triggered, and based on the existing CI configurations or IRE, we are able to check that particular CI is already available in service now, or we need to create a new based on the IRE. If we define the serial number there, that will be going to with that. If we define that particular thing, that will be go based on that. So I hope that you are able to differentiate now props and patterns. And when we are doing discovery of the live devices, we'll showcase you where the prop is discovered and how the pattern will be discovering and why that only pattern is discovering, because everything is designed step by step, right? So based on that, only that particular thing will be discover triggering basically to collect the information. Any questions? I hope I'm able to help you clear out your doubt, like if you are speaking, you're on mute. Okay, let's go. Discovery and IRE engine process flow, how that will work basically, right? So here, if you see scan IP discovery phase, that is the first step, right? What will be happen? Classifying, as I already mentioned, once the scanning is done. So classifying device respond by classifier classifies by OS. So when we found port, based on that classification will be happening. And if device does not respond access or denied, that particular flow will be stopped there only. If that will identify, does it serial number match on the serial number table? They will check. Yes, if it is matched based on the IRE, that will update the existing CI. If it is not, then it will try to match the other attribute which we have defined in the IRE. That can be FQDN, that can be the name, or that can be other things, right? Process and all, right? Based on that, it will try to identify. Yes, it will matching. Then it will update the CI. No, it will touch. It will not match with the IP, name, address, and anything. That will going to create this, CI basically. So I will showcase you in the end of the sessions today how that will be working, how that will be happening, how it's going to be tried to identify based on the word informations, and that is also defined here. What is the use of which port, which need pattern or probe or other things we have to be triggered based on that information. I hope it's clear to everyone. I'm not able to see energy today. Guys, you're not responding. I hope you are able to hear me.
Yes, Ajay.
Yes,
But
Ajay.
why I'm not able to see energy? Till the time you are not responding to me, yes, no, whatever. Right. So I feel I'm not giving the training to anyone. I'm just, doing recording of the session. That's it. So
No,
I don't
Ajay,
want to do it.
we don't want to disturb you while you're on the flow, right? I mean, we
Definitely,
have
but
questions, but we want to respect the flow of the class.
Definitely, but till the time you're not stopping me, I'm going with my flow, and I feel ki, things are going smooth, and everyone is understanding everything, right? So that is just to for you guys. View whenever you feel, whatever you feel, you just stop me, and I can help you out with your doubts. And when I'm asking something like, "Are you getting it?" Please respond. That's it.
And one other thing is, I don't know if we can be dumb on this class because I don't know the basics, right? So I don't know how the other members of the class are, right? They might be like pros, right?
Hmm.
So that's something that I want to reserve till the end of the class where I can ask the doubts. So that's one other thing.
Sure, sure, Lalit. Yeah. Okay, so that how that IRE engines basically works. Now, when we are talking about IRE, that is clubbed with the two things. One is identification, second is reconciliation. Identification is identifying the device if it is available or not based on whatever we have configured in identifier entries. Second is reconciliation. Reconciliation is doing what data or which attribute we want to be update from different sources. Now let's take an example. We have two sources One is discovery, and one is, service graph connector, which is updating the same type of CIs, Windows Server example. Okay, and I feel that assigned to or technical owner or some other attribute which is not coming from the discovery, which is only coming from uh, service graph connector, that okay, we no need to do anything in that case because that is only updating. But if we want to update only those fields, we need to create a reconciliation rule. So reconcile of the data, basically we have to do what attribute we want to update from the discovery and what attribute we want to update from uh, service graph connector, SCCM or whatever we are going to use for that to update the CIs. We have to define that attribute itself in the reconciliation engine rule. Otherwise, what will be happening? Your discovery running at 10 a.m. that will update the CI with that informations, and that your service graph connector running is 12 p.m. Then it will update again the CI with their informations, and you are not able to see or not able to understand why the data is changing inconsistently too much, right? And you sometimes that can be cause the errors. Basically, you're not able to feel if the data which is coming from SCCM are correct, right? Because you have to make a source of truth for each CI to give the complete informations to the customer, right? So we have to define, we have to design in that way if my data will be reconciled and showcase the up-to-date data to on that particular form for that particular class. So how that reconciliation engine will rule will work basically. Just in different ways, I just try to mention those particular things, like what will be happening here on that pattern side now, right? So here if you see, yes,
So Ajay, is discovery and IRE engine two different? Are these two different processes or one single process?
both are the different processes.
So IRE
discovery Discovery uses the IR engines.
discovery uses IRE engine. It's like a child process.
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay.
And couple of organizations, like I just let me give an example. I worked for earlier a MNC. They specifically mentioned in their SOW we need to work on the IRE or not,
Uh-huh.
because IRE is something where you have to do multiple configurations to make CI up to date or where you want to be create, right? So that IRE engine is something specifically mentioned ki you have to work on the IRE and make sure your CMDB is up to date,
Okay.
right? So, and if sometimes customer says I don't want thing, whatever out of the box is available, I'm okay with that. You just run the discovery and close your things, right? So what we need to do in that case, we just need to collect the IPs, create the schedules, and run the discovery, and whatever it's going to be updated in the CMDB, we are not worry about it, right? But that why we are doing discovery, that is the main thing. We need up to date CMDB. My CMDB is clean, there is no duplicates, and data should be up to date or accurate. That's why service now, sorry, customer is purchasing the service now discovery and investing lots of money to do that. Otherwise, he's also already managing that their CMDB somehow with some other tools like SCCM or Excel or whatever. But what is the challenge is there? They don't have updated data, real time updated data, basically, we can say. Right? So that's why the both are worked together. If someone is like discovery is not working, IRE is doing thing, or IRE is not configured properly, we can see data is not correct. We can see lots of duplicate there. So that must be required to be configured the IRA in that way if we feel data is not coming in the correct way while we are doing our analysis.
So Ajay,
So
is the
what
IRE
I
part
understand
of
is when these
CMDB?
Yes.
Okay.
IRE is for CMDB.
Right.
To make sure the data is going to be updated
So
correct.
Ajay,
Hmm. Yes, please.
so Ajay, my question is when we have about 20,000 devices to identify, as per our
Hmm.
conversation, we would do two mid servers, two
Hmm.
mid servers, backup mid servers, so four mid servers.
Hmm.
Apart from those four mid servers, if we to make sure that the data is populated unique in the CMDB along with the mid servers, we have to make sure that the IRE engine is actually kicked off and running.
Yes, definitely.
Okay,
And
all right, thank you.
that IRE engine is, while we are running discovery, IRE engine is automatically triggered. Okay. And also when we are doing service graph connector, we have to be ensure that the IRE engine should be running. Out of the box that will be running, but there is one script available to run that IRE engine, which you can add in your integrations, basically custom integrations. So you can enable that one to run your IRE engine or not for that integration specific. That can also be possible.
Okay, so you can choose to just run the mid server, or there's an option where it's more of a configuration thing where you could do mid server plus IRE engine.
Yes.
Okay,
So
thank
mid, don't be confused. Mid server is nothing here. Mid server is just only a mediator between ServiceNow instance to customer target devices. Mid server only just not exposing your data directly on cloud or directly on open internet. That he is doing. That's it. So
you.
mid server is just for that only to communication way. IRE is just to once your communication is done, how or when or where the data will be updated and in which format or in which way. So you can identify that is correct.
So Ajay, I have a quick question. So
Mhm.
we have like Dynatrace as our service graph connector, where we
Mhm.
get all these devices information, and
Mhm.
now the client is like looking at the data, and then it's not correct or it's not accurate. I believe the IREs are not set up correctly. But how
Mhm.
do we ask them to move to the ServiceNow discovery? Because that will be a little bit more upfront task for them to like move to completely ServiceNow discovery, right? So is it better to have them on Dynatrace and apply these IRE rules on top of it?
That can be possible. On top of it, Dynatrace, you can configure not on the Dynatrace side, but the ServiceNow side, you can put the IRE
Yeah.
rules. That
Mhm.
is possible based on your discovery source or whatever, right?
Or
Second thing, yeah,
mhm.
yeah, please.
Yeah, the question was like, how can we convince them that we should try to utilize more on the ServiceNow side of it, because that will be much
Uh,
more integrated, right?
right, but that is something difficult job which I feel because Dynatrace that he already purchased and he already using, right? You
Yes.
already have subscriptions or license or whatever, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
ask customer to invest in the ServiceNow discovery, he need to purchase the subscriptions and the cost will be very huge. Now,
Mm-hmm.
my what I do basically, if I come to in that particular situation, I just try to understand what Dynatrace is doing, right? What ServiceNow, what other value add ServiceNow will give to the customer, ServiceNow discovery, how it will give accurate data, or I will try to schedule some workshops or some sessions with the customer to showcase. Yes, sir. This is ServiceNow discovery. And as of now, from Dynatrace, we are able to do these particular devices only, and we are not able to get the relationships. We are not able to get that particular whole
Yeah.
informations. But if we move out to ServiceNow, that is the pros which we are able to see it. And your CMDB will be more clean and healthy. Right. So
Right.
we have to come to in that conversations with the customer. We have to showcase the value add and other things, and based on that, we have to be proceed further to do that. Now, what do we have to, and it if only one Dynatrace and Dynatrace is doing all things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there is no other tools. I think it's really tough to convince customer, but if they have lots of tools, right? And
Right.
lots of chunks are doing their small discovery or whatever, and then it's going to be updated in the CMDB. Then you can ask customer immediately. We have lots of tools. We have to do integration with lots of tools. Again, the data consistency is not correct. Like, Dynatrace is also discovering Windows or SSM is also discovering the Windows. Now you tell me which is the source of truth for that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that will be very challenging things when you are working, but you just need to be convinced in the different way, like what is the value add using the ServiceNow discovery and how it will help you out to long run, basically. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to move out for the service mapping in next phase, or you are planning to do that, if you want to do event management, then ServiceNow discovery will give you the more visibility as compared to the integrations which we are doing here or service graph connectors.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah. Shall I move to next? Anything from anyone? Okay. So, I just want to showcase you how the things will be working here. I've started with the second classify. So as I mentioned, it tried to determine type based on type of OS, and it will launch the props pattern against active devices. So which props will be triggered? So here the classifier props will be trigger horizontal discovery pro horizontal pattern, and it will discover for CI classification Windows 2019 server. Once my probe is triggered, it will trigger the horizontal pattern for identification section. So in horizontal pattern, it will try to gather again the same informations, serial number or a name or whatever informations he collecting in that one, whatever that we have steps mentioned to in the pattern side. And once that is done, that is going to be create and update the CI. So what pattern will be triggered now here? The pattern name will be triggered specific for Windows. That is Windows OS server pattern will be triggered. And pattern logs discovery ECCQ, that will be also we can see on the ServiceNow discovery logs as well. And then we have in pattern, when pattern is going to be triggered, we have two things. One is identification section and one is extension section. So in identification section, we have in simple words, if I say that out of the box pattern which is already available there, which step by step will be collecting the data. But extension section, if customer is asked something different, I need that information as well with your discovery. In that case, extension section comes in the picture, which you can create to collect the data. But again, only that information which is possible, and you no need to require to configure or drive a complete pattern. Only small, not small I can say, but only that is possible. So if let's take an example here. If customer ask you, and customer come and ask you, I need reboot date and time of that particular CI. Now you just need to assess how I can collect it. I think that through WMI commands, or that to something different, or might be customer is storing that reboot time in some config file. You need to understand that one, and you have to be configure the extension pattern. But if customer comes to you and ask you, I need to discover that particular device, can you help me out? That will not work with the extension. You have to be go with that new pattern only, or custom pattern only, after defining the process classifiers, classifications, ports, props for that, and then the horizontal pattern for it. And that identification sections you have to be defined. So we have to be understand that particular situations when, where, or we have to do that one. And the next is exploration pattern or exploration phase, where exploration pattern will be triggered based on the collected information in the identification pattern or horizontal pattern. It will try to assess what we found here. Now, let's take an example that identification section found or a pattern found. Okay, there is one database is also running. There is one database is running on it. There is application running on it. Based on that, the next level of to explore the CI more, that specific pattern will be triggered to collect that information on it. Okay, I think let me move to the next slide. Any questions in that, guys? I think this is going to be more technical, I can understand, but before showcasing these particular things on the instance, I just want to be clear the basics things so you can understand on the instance directly. You will not going to be more confused on that side. So let me move to the next slide. This is, I think I have covered this one, but let me go through it once again. Application dependency mapping. Why, what is the USP of ServiceNow Discovery? That is the USP because it gives you the complete picture or dependency mapping to one server to other component, which any other tool in the market is not able to do that. And it also create the relationships, right? So that is the USP, and it how that will work. Basically, while you are doing discovery, based on the running processes, it will collect the informations and it will create the relationships out of the box. So here, if you see, we have two AIX servers. One is SRV01 and second is SRV02. That particular AIX servers we have discovered. And if I go to downstream, I can see on the both there is one database running which is Aura01. And that is also going to be connected with mass storage devices or storage area network, SAN type of storage. And the top of it, there are application running on it, right? Web server is running on it. If let me go. Okay, there are other applications running on it, right? Let's focus on that one. So it will create automatically that relationships and how that relationships will help out when you are doing your incident management or when you are doing your event management, right? If your this EIX server is down, because that is simple, infra component. If it is down, how it's going to be impact your application, which is running on that particular host. Because if web server is running on it, some web application running on it, right? And database is also going to be connected, means some data is going to be stored with the database as well. So you can easily identify if that host is down, my web application should be impacted or my database will be impacted. And it will help to, find out the correct application or web application which is running on that server or the correct database which is connecting to that server. Otherwise, if you don't have that information, you are not able to, you need to be search lots of things. You need to be check again if the relationship is not provided, that is not there, how you can identify which database is running on which application or which host. Then you need to do, somehow you have to make a repository somewhere in the in ServiceNow itself. Manually you have to be create some mapping or attribute itself in that target table or the host table itself. That is a database, that is application, that something is running on it, right? But this is the beauty of the ServiceNow and the USP, I can say, which is provided by ServiceNow in the vast view. Then second things comes service mapping. The service mapping is something vertical discovery. So normal discovery we always called say, or that is horizontal discovery, and the service mapping we called vertical discovery or top to down discovery. That is top of it on ServiceNow discovery only, right? So once your ServiceNow discovery is done, that will you can run or configure the service mapping discovery. That is exactly same with like ServiceNow discovery, but the function of that service mapping discovery or top to down or vertical discovery is something different, which is it is mapping your application services, business services, or in simple words, your application from top to down to showcase the complete component of your application only, not of the other component. And it will run based on the connections. Basically, it will run based on the config file to collect that information, creating that connections and showcase that one. That is running on the running processes. Just small difference, that is running on the running processes and that is running on the configuration files or the conf file. Okay. So here, if I a little bit go down in the vertical discovery, how it will works or how it will help out the customers. Basically, I already mentioned in the last sessions, like we have an application which is customer facing. I again take an example of Airtel Payments Bank or Airtel, my Airtel app example. So Airtel is a customer facing app. Lots of customers using. They are trying to do recharge. They are going to be doing Airtel Extreme from them. They are checking their mobile related data consumption and other things, right? They have payment option as well. So they are doing some payment and all, right? But if my Airtel app is down, I just need to be ensure which component of Airtel app is down, what will be the impact, right? And what will be that, huge impact, or which type of service is going to be impact. That service mapping is able to identify that particular things, because service mapping is going to be focused on the Airtel app application service or business service. So we can define that as well, like uh in small say, we can say small words, we can define that one, that is my top layer. When customer is accessing, we are accessing the front end, we just going to use that application, Airtel app and all, right? But in the back end, when we are clicking on any icon or anything on the service now, that particular application, that is going to be connect with that, infrastructure which is connecting in backend. So the infrastructure can be database, that can be load balancer, that can be application server, that can be web server or nginx or whatever. So if my database is not working, right? If my database is not working and there are 4 database, but my one database is not working, and that is dedicated for recharges. If anyone comes on Airtel app and click on the recharge and see, they are able to see the complete information about that, how many recharge available for your numbers based on your location. That is your, if database is down, you are not able to see that. But apart from that, other information is working, right? You are able to do the payments, you are able to see that your data consumptions and other things, but recharges you are not able to see. So it will dig down that level to identify that is the actual issue which we have to be fixed, right? And that database transaction is not running, sorry, that recharge transaction is not running basically. So it will showcase basically on a specific application, or you can say top to down level, to showcase our impact on it. Any questions in it? Okay.
No.
So, almost whatever I prepared for presentations, things to help out or to clear your doubts, that is completed. From tomorrow onwards, we will be starting to install the mid servers first, and then we will be starting that discovery. How discovery works, we will be little bit going deeper the each step of the discovery. Then we will be going to discuss how, and when we have to take a decisions, can new pattern, we have to create a new pattern, or we have to modify the existing pattern. How we can create a new pattern, how we can create a new port probe, or if let's take an example out of the box, we know Linux device discovery runs on the port 22, but customer is modified that one on port 25. How you can detect that one, right? How you can identify the discovery logs. Based on that, you can understand that is the issue, where the discovery logs going to be stored, how discovery dashboard will be showcasing. So that I can say from tomorrow onwards, we are going to be more focused on the practical side. So make sure your PDI will be ready. If you're using PDI or ServiceNow Discovery Fundamental course, you can enroll for that. You can also get one instance there as well. So you can enable that as well for that particular things to do that. So I'm also, a couple of the basics things I've just used from my side, but lots of things I'm also going to be used by ServiceNow Fundamental course as well. So the things will be cleared and things will be going in that way, that manner only. So and one more thing, yes, VZ, you raise your hand. Okay, I hope my screen is visible. So I've already planned what things will going to be discussed, so and which day I'm going to be do that, right? So don't worry about that. Now I think we have 10 minutes. I think we can discuss. I'm open for options because in the 10 minutes I cannot do any practical thing, right? So let's discuss whatever your questions, concerns, and from tomorrow onwards, let's move out to that practical side of the service now discovery in the CMDB. Yes, Lalit.
So Ajay, as you mentioned, we're going to start the practicals from tomorrow. So as you said in my earlier conversation, the mid server would kick off the IRE engine. That's the heart of the mid server. Mid server is about connection and getting the thing started. So,
Yes.
right, so that's the concept that you explained. Now, you explained the default patterns that come with ServiceNow, and
Mm-hmm.
you also said that there are patterns that a customer can define a pattern.
Yes.
So, when we walk in as consultants to work at a customer site, and if the customer
Mm-hmm.
asks, hey, you know what, the default patterns are there, but I want you to define a custom pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we start? What should we do?
Okay. Now let's take an example of simple thing. Okay. Uh, customer having host running on the Windows Linux, that is the OS basically, right? But on top of it, customer have a DB. Let's take an example of Raptor DB, which is recently introduced by ServiceNow as well. Okay, which is end of the day running on some Postgres and all. But let's take an example of Raptor DB. You go, you are discussing with customer mentioned ki I have Oracle, I have MySQL and all, but they also mentioned about the Raptor DB. Now you immediately come to ServiceNow and check, is there any Raptor DB pattern available? You find out on the documentation or whatever, you looked it, that Raptor DB is out of the box, not discoverable. But in your SOW, customer specifically mentioned that that is the classes which we want to be discovered. Now you have to discover the Raptor DB for the customer, but how you are able to discover? So first of all, what you need to understand, what type of database it is, on which processes the database is running, right? And what is the expectation of the customer, what information he wants, right? Which, like, he wants running processes, he wants running port on which the Raptor DB is running. He wants that connections with that particular host machine. Everything you just need a requirement from the customer. What basically I do, right? I will go to that same type of database to understand the configuration or the pattern, how that is working, right? If something is new for me, so I will open like Oracle database pattern in ServiceNow, and I will check how the steps are defined here and how it's going to be identified. It's a Oracle database. To identify it's a Oracle database, there are process classifiers. Based on that process classifiers, that classification will be happening related to any application or anything which is running on that particular host. So if I, let's say it's just a configuration thing, if I just put like, criteria is raptor.db.exe, right? So if I put as a criteria, so when my classification will triggered, it will check is there any thing running on like raptor.db.exe? Yes, it is running. So it's found कि now raptor.db is also available on that particular device, and it will trigger the pattern based on that which we have did configure, which we have did configurations for in classification, sorry, process classifiers. It will trigger my horizontal pattern for raptor.db. And again, in the raptor.db, we have to be step by step mention each and everything. Like in the first step, we are going to be check that what is the host name of that raptor.db, or what is on which port it is running, what is the IP of it, right? And then we have to make the relationships, when then we have to use the different operations to make the relationships, and we that particular custom pattern will be built. So we are going to be cover those steps, each and everything in the next sessions as well.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, anything from anyone else? I think we have 7 minutes more. Yeah. Yes, Ajit.
Any prerequisite needed for tomorrow's class, since we are going to do the practical?
Right. So as I mentioned, be ready with your, PDI or, your instance where I can help you out. But after once my installation done, you can also install the mid server from your own, right? And you see what challenges you are facing that particular time. That must be required to do that.
Okay, we'll be installing mid server on our laptops, right? Is there a virtual machine needed, or how do we do it?
Laptop is not possible to install your mid server, because the specific configurations to install mid server, the Windows OS Server 2016 and more than greater than that. So if your
Okay.
laptop is running on Windows 7 or 8 or 11 or whatever, right? So mid server is not possible to install on that. So make sure you just have your ServiceNow Discovery Fundamental course enabled. There is also you will see, or you will get a virtual machine of Windows Server. So we can install over there as well.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Right. Or as I mentioned yesterday, Azure free subscriptions is also available. You can use that as well. Just need to be configured or register with your email ID and some details, and they will validate. And after that, they will give you Azure portal access, and you can build your things there. Let me showcase you in a couple of minutes if that will be possible. One moment. I hope my screen is visible still, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So see, this is my Azure portal. What I did basically here, I just configured couple of Windows and Linux machine, right? You can see this is my Windows machine, this is my Linux, and how I can do that? Just simple. What I need to do, I need to go virtual machines, create virtual machine. It just, UI is very simple here, right? Here it help out while we are doing cloud discovery as well, right? So what is the subscriptions we have to use? I'm using the free trial. The resource group, we have two resource group, Ajay resource group, or whatever you want to be. We can create a new resource group. What is my machine name? Let me take an example of new resource group. I just created one new resource group. Virtual machine name, I just put, okay. The regions, like if uh, cloud discovery or cloud component, we have to choose the data centers. So basically these are the data centers, specific data centers. So let's take an example. I choose US West 3, availability zones are there. whatever zones, whatever the OS we have to be installed, we can select the OS. Let's take an example. I'm going with no. Yeah, let me go with that. Right. So zone, it's just for availability zone, but you no need to be worry about that. Then simple. Then you can see now that is not available. That particular size is not available with that. So let me go with the zone 3. Let me remove this one. Yeah. The zone west is 3 subscription not available. Okay, so let me change the data center. Yes, no, this is also not here. So it just showcase you each and everything where you can enable that your machine. Okay, yeah, see, fine. So now I just selected the Europe, UK, South. There is my availability for creative virtual machine. This is my 64-bit. I have just selected one core CPU, 1 GB memory. This is just for I just want to showcase you only, right? And you can put the username and password directly. So let's take an example. I put test password. I just put that one, right? And just we can enable it. And on which port you want to do connections, you can also enable it. Like Windows is 3389, RDP will be happening, and port SSH 22 will be happening for Linux machine, right? HTTP and this one. So we can enable that one and just create the machine here. So it's very easy to create machine in Azure portal. Once you are able to do that, you are able to see the machine will be there, and all information related to machine will be available like that way. That is running on the Windows on 16 server. That is 2 core CPU, 8 GB memory. That is my public IP, which subscription under it is, with resources group it is, right? And I can access these using that particular IP, my mid server. So I have already done that yesterday. What password I put? So this is only IP. You can see 52.233.2.205. That is my Windows. This is here I can install. Now, what I'm going to do that. Let me too small. First of all, what I need to do, I'm just trying to access my PDI here. Sorry. So my ServiceNow instance, because I need installer first of all here. So I will go to browser if something is there, Firefox or something. No. Chrome, no. Edge. No, I think let's use this one then. I will open my PDI here. I will download that particular version, whatever I require to install mid server, right? And we will showcase you how I'm going to install that one. So that is also available. It's just very easy to do that. And it will also help out to do your cloud discovery. We can also see that why my discovery or not working. If we are facing, we can troubleshoot on the login on the Windows server itself. And that same way, this is also available with your Now Learning course as well. If you go here, and if I put discovery fundamentals, so you just go with that discovery fundamental on demand course. Here you can also see you will get one mid server RDP URL. So you can take RDP as well of it. Let me take this example as well. Let me close this. It's not connecting to that one. Might be some issue with that. Okay, that is not running. I need to wake up my instance first. So, you can also access that one. That is my Windows server basically. And this is the credentials for that Windows server or mid server basically. So you can access it from RDP and your laptop, Windows laptop might be remote desktop, something there. You can click, you can access it and you can install your mid server. It's your own mid server as well. After downloading the mid server things from there, that's it. It's very easy, but we'll showcase you tomorrow how we are going to install that one.
So in the discovery fundamentals, Ajay, there's already one mid server that's been installed. We are just going to install one more.
Yes, you can install it. How many are you want to be?
Yeah, but to follow with you, we'll just be installing one more. That's it.
Right. Yes. Definitely. So anything else from anyone else? Any questions before we are wrapping up the sessions for today? Okay. If no questions, then we are good. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. We'll meet you tomorrow. Let's start the practical. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.